Welcome back to the part 2 of the #1 radio talk show of the Global Woman, and I'm here with my special guest Judy Piatkus. We had an amazing conversation in the first part, and we talked a lot about technology, women empowerment, peace, and we said that let's stay a little bit longer in this topic, because I think it's our time, as we discussed, to give some contribution to the world, not just with some help within the house or outside the house. Or a lot of women, of course, they have started to build their business, but also our role in the world as peacemakers. Do you think that if women would have a position and the decision making would bring some more positive impact into the world and will make this world a better place to live in?
I think when half the world's population is not fully at the table, and we're not at the table in so many countries where major decisions are made. And we are having this interview in London, and there are too many photos where we see not enough women are being invited to share their views. So we're not going to get it right for the whole world because we're out of balance. Whatever happens, there are many brilliant women who have so much to contribute, and it's taking a while for it to shift and for women's voices to be heard and to be listened to, which is equally important. So we have a way to go, but I see it as our time because it's now being recognized that we have this contribution to make. And every day we are seeing steps forward, and that's very exciting.
But why we had to wait so long, Judy Piatkus? Why we feel that now is our time? Why our time was not earlier?
It's interesting. That's such a good question, Mirela. And I think that we have to look back at history, and we see there have been cycles. And there have been cycles where women were much more equal with men. We have had cycles where women have been very, very powerful. And there have been countries and different cultures where women really do take their place alongside men. But I think that we've come out of a cycle in the West where many countries have been patriarchal societies. We've had that for many years now, and now this is changing. It's very positive, and it is giving all of us the opportunity to step forward and to think how we can contribute, even in a tiny way. We can contribute just by how we go about our daily lives and how we treat people, and how we inspire people in our families, in our communities, in our workplaces. So we have every opportunity to step forward.
Do you think that because of everything that is happening into the world has been a kind of call for us to waken up? And because it looks like we have been sleeping, the world is full of sleepers. Still a lot of people are sleeping, so it looks like also that we are wakening up each other, we are lifting up each other. And is this a kind of threat that we are feeling, that if we don't do something, if we don't take an action, then it's going to impact us? Because until we see that it's touching our lives, we stay some kind of away and thinking, that's nothing to do with me, that is not going to impact with me, this thing is happening in the other side of the world. But as we know, we live in the whole, and now women somehow are seeking to bring together the part with the whole, because the part is part of the whole. So is all of this that is somehow moving and bringing us in a higher level of consciousness to take actions, or why now?
Well, I think it's very exciting, and I think now there's two things immediately come to my mind. First of all, we have technology to enable us to communicate and connect. which we didn't have before. So that brings us closer to other people. Also, of course, sometimes keeping us apart when we're more interested in technology than in people. But of course, the other threat that we're all aware of is climate change and the environment. And again, technology's made it easier for us to see what is happening and how the climate of the world is changing. And I think we all recognize that this is something that we need to be aware of and that we can do something about. So these two things are combining along with more factors. There are more changes. We have more older people in the world. We have different geopolitical formations. We have other things that impact on our lives, but all of these are raising awareness in every person, and we are waking up and we're looking around us and we don't always like what we see, but in order to change everything we have to be aware that there is a possibility for change, and that unless we want it, it's not going to happen.
Well, another point that is also very important is that when people start feeling they are getting older, they think that their job is done. And that's why I so much admire everything you do. You are a role model. When I grow up, I want to become like you. Because a lot of people at your age, they think their mission is done. I remember my mother, when she was about 50, she said, oh, I'm old now, I'm retired, that's it, I've done my job. The idea is that it never ends, and until we have the last breath of life, we have to find a way how we can make it meaningful. Every single second of our life make it meaningful. Where do you find this energy? Where do you find this drive inside you? And how can you inspire women after 50 to believe that it's a new millennium, it's a new opportunity in their life, and they have to be lucky and blessed to feel that is a great thing, that they are still strong, alive, they can use their body, their spirit, their mind, they can use their existence into the world, their wisdom, to keep doing great things like you are doing. So what would be your message for this category of people, and especially women?
I was always thinking about how I wanted my life to be. In common with many women throughout the world, we don't want to settle for second best. But in order to know what we think is best for ourselves, we have to have an understanding of ourselves. And so I would say to every woman that it is helpful to do some work, to learn what your triggers are, to understand your emotions, to get to know yourself better. Because when you know yourself better, you know what you want from life, you know what your needs are, you know what's important to you, you know where you can't settle and where you can settle. And I would say that it is important to do what you really want to do if you're aware of what you want to do, to give it your best shot before you get to the age of 50. Because once you get to the age of 50, you can still try and do everything you want to, but it is harder. It is harder because you haven't got so much time ahead of you and you haven't got so much energy. So your 30s, you might be bringing up a family, you might be developing your career, but your 40s give you time to really reflect on what you would like to achieve with your life.
That's a good message, yes. So 30, 40, what about 50?
So when you get to your 50s, and we're living in very exciting times where women are so useful. So when people who are now in their late 80s were growing up, that generation felt they were getting into a cycle of being the older generation when they were in their 60s. But now, people in their 60s and 70s are living a similar life, in many cases, to people in their 40s and 50s. So you don't have to grow old until you get into your 80s, where you might say, actually, I'm going to put the burden of running around and working hard down. And when I say working hard, it might not be for someone else, it might not be in an office, but even cooking a meal for friends or family is more of an effort when you're in your 70s. So there comes a point where you want to stop that, but otherwise, every generation now has the opportunity to live a happier, better life, because there is so much material available to help you think about what you really, really want. Doesn't mean you'll always get it. So you also have to learn how to find acceptance of what hasn't worked for you and how to enjoy what has.
And sometimes, Judy, people, they just don't know what they want. And they struggle to find their purpose in life. They try, they fail, they do mistakes, they try again, then they get excited again for a new idea, then they go to the dark zone and they think it's not worth, and then they give up. So what should we do in this case?
Well, I think one of the wonderful things about Global Women is that it's a fantastic example of women coming together to collaborate and support and encourage and mentor. And all over the world, we're seeing women gathering in groups, in communities, helping and encouraging and supporting one another. And as we are supported and reminded by friends and colleagues of what we are good at, what we seem to enjoy, what our strengths are, then we are very inspired to carry on and to try to make the most of what we're here to do. And then it becomes easier to recognise what we do want when our friends and colleagues support us and reinforce what we really know.
And it's so good to see that also women are somehow understanding that we need to support each other. We need to understand each other. These sisterhood movements is becoming more and more meaningful now, and because of the consciousness, probably now we see more and more women try to help and support instead of seeing each other as a competitor. So there are a lot of women's organizations that are working together. And another thing that really makes me think how this can be possible is like we see a lot of movements around the world that they are not coordinated with each other. I mean, movements about empowering women, but more or less they are doing the same. Sometimes I have the feeling that something above us is orchestrating all of that, because I'm doing something here and then tomorrow I just hear that somebody else is doing exactly the same thing. And we don't know each other. We never spoke about that. We don't know what we are doing in terms of, we're just doing it because we feel that there is a call inside us. You as a spiritual woman, do you think that everything that is happening in terms of bringing more women in that higher level of consciousness and connecting with their higher self is something that is orchestrated from intelligence forces, or I don't know. Now I want your spiritual perspective.
Well, thank you. When we come in the world, we have a map, and that map is actually the day that we're born. And if you are interested and believe in the planets, then you can have an astrological chart, and the chart will indicate what your life will be like, what you will be drawn to, where your talents and skills may be. So I think that we are in a time, the Age of Aquarius, where we are going to see these changes shifting in the world. And I think astrologers would agree that the Age of Aquarius is going to be about people connecting in groups, about community, about women coming into their strengths. It's part of the shift of consciousness that we pay attention to the bigger map, the bigger picture. If we were in the sky looking down on the planet, we would see so many different winds of change affecting us from different places. And that's one of the reasons I started Conscious Cafe, so that we could have exploratory conversations for men and women about how our consciousness is changing at this time in the history of the planet.
Wow. Look, when I'm with you, the time stops. But I want to use this opportunity also to get some more wisdom from you in terms of how we can connect spirituality and the financial aspect. We have 1 minute time to close this, because for me this is a very important topic. There are a lot of women out there that they are connected with themselves, but they find it very hard to also monetize their skills, their experience. So, and also a lot of people that are scared about how the financial industry is changing every day. So what is your input on that? And the message for women that they want to empower themselves financially?
I want to say to women, don't be scared about money. Money is just common sense. If you're running a business, talk to people who can tell you what to do if you're not used to managing money. And of course, when you're running your home, you know all about managing money. So managing it in the business world is just scaling it up. But very importantly, don't delegate the understanding of how to manage money to other people in your home. Take responsibility for knowing what it means to manage your own money.
I love it. Judy Piatkus, you are amazing. Promise me you'll come back. Friends, I was here in this first radio talk show of Global Woman with Judy Piatkus, the founder of Piatkus Books, the entrepreneur, the founder of Conscious Cafe now. If you want to know more about her, just Google her name, Conscious Cafe. She's everywhere, and it is a gift having you with us and in the world. Thank you very much, Judy Piatkus.
Thank you, Mirela.